What butt-clenching title did Metallica almost name their first album?
What does Metallica have in common with the boy who cried wolf?
How did Metallica reject Megadeth twice?
And what is Metallica and Victoria's secret?
Is it lingerie? Are they all wearing lingerie?
That's sexy as hell.
Hello and welcome to Everything You Didn't Need to Know About. Today we are talking everything you didn't need to know about Metallica! Yay!
Metallica! Turn around. That's Metallica.
Oh, is that that's
That's
Devil
Metallica.
Horn. That's
Yeah.
No,
But
that's
also
Wolfpack. That's wrestling. That's metal horns.
Don't do the shocker.
Yeah. As always, we will at the end of this episode we will be judging each other's facts, picking our favorite one, and choosing a winner. And that winner will receive the greatest prize of all.
Man,
A completed 4x4 Rubik's Cube.
Wow.
well done.
Yeah.
You have been in lockdown
Thank
too
you
long.
so much. Thank you so much. And before we start, I just want to say as well that we are now officially a podcast. We are on the Spotify. Ooh. So look up
Ooh.
everything you didn't need to know about, and you can listen back to all our greatest hits.
Look out, Joe Rogan.
We're coming for you, buddy.
Well,
Yeah.
You've taken all that horse warmer and now we're coming for you.
Yeah, my fact is about Metallica's first album back in 1983, I think. James Hetfield had this idea in his mind for years. He knew the perfect title for his album. He knew the album artwork and everything. He was all ready to go. And the album was going to be called Metal Up Yo Ass. And the image was even better. It was going to be a picture of a toilet with a hand coming up with like a shiv sticking out of the hand, sticking up into the air. Metal Up Yo Ass. And instead, they went for the I guess the much calmer title of Kill 'Em All.
So, Sam, why didn't they go with shitting metal or whatever?
It was Metal Up Yo Ass.
Metal-
And I think they didn't go with it because it's the greatest name of all time.
You want to save that for a while.
Yeah,
You don't want to peak too early.
you can't come up with Metal Up Your Ass. What do you do after that? So instead, they just decided to kill them all, which I also think is a terrible idea because if you've killed everyone, then who's going to buy your second album?
It's a missed opportunity because can you imagine going in for a colonoscopy and would you like some mood music playing? Well, we do this. What? Yeah, what would you like? I've got a good idea.
I once had an MRI and they said, you can play any music you like in it. And I said, can you play some Blink-182? I like Blink-182. So the first song that they played was All the Small Things, which is quite nice. But the second song they played is I Want to Fuck a Dog in the Ass. and I was in an MRI being like, this is the funniest moment of my life. And I'm not allowed to move or tell anyone about it.
Yeah, the first MRI I had, because you can't have like normal headphones because they're made of metal. So they give you these weird ones that have kind of potato sound. I think they might actually be made out of potatoes.
It's not magnetic.
The first time I
Earbuds.
went in, I thought it was just a weird like side effect of the MRI chamber because they said that they would just play, they just said, do you have any preferences? And I was like, no, just anything will be fine. And I could hear like 2 different radio stations. And I was like, oh, wow, I wonder if it's like that thing when people say they can hear radios through their fillings or whatever. Turns out, no, they just hadn't closed the tab of the first radio station when they brought up the
Amazing.
second radio station. So I had like
Okay.
classic hits on like underneath. And then on the top, I had like the breeze or something.
Did they ever
strange.
line up perfectly and play like some
Yeah, there was
awesome
one point
song?
where there were ad breaks at the same time and it sounded like the voiceover people were talking to each other.
Amazing.
On the note of albums of Metallica, and speaking of electronic things, the Ride the Lightning, the second follow-up album to Kill 'Em All, it was supposed to be blue. It was like the whole blue album cover, and then and the French accidentally printed it green, and now that's a massive collector's item. So I'm honestly regretting not getting into Metallica, before I was born. They've been around for ages, though. They've been around since like 1981.
Yeah, they formed in 81.
Yeah. What's this wedding?
They're even older than Jen.
Even older. But what would their wedding anniversary be?
I think 40th anniversary. I think that is hip replacements. I think.
You've got to hope it's some kind of metal. If 40-year anniversary,
Yeah.
you've got it. Originally, they were going to choose out of 2 different names. It was going to be Metallica or Metal Mania.
Man.
Yeah, man, Metal Mania would have just sucked.
Yeah. Metallica was a name that Lars Ulrich pitched to some other guy he was talking with about something, and he had to then convince this guy he was working with to take this other name for a song title or something, so that he could steal the name Metallica and use it for his own band. And then they became like the biggest metal band of all time. Oh, and when we were speaking about MRIs before, that's something that James Hetfield would not have had growing up, because his family, his parents were super Christian Science people who don't believe in like medical intervention or anything like that. So he never went to the doctors
named
as a kid.
sect.
Yeah, exactly right. This is a bit sad. His mum died when he was 16, but probably wouldn't have if she had gone and see a doctor. Go see a doctor, kids.
Oh, doctors are great. They know lots of stuff and they can fix things.
And you should get vaccinated.
You're an anti-vaxxer though, right, Jen?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
She's an anti-faxer.
We literally just got rid of our fax machines like in the last year, I think, at work.
Oh,
We had those massive printer machines that can also do faxing, and then someone was like, literally they did a run on the machine logbook or whatever, and like no one had faxed anything in 3 years, and we were like, we can probably let this go now.
I forgot that you worked at the Amish Museum. Yeah.
They're remarkably common over in East Asia. So people make fun of North Korea for still using fax machines, but Japan, Korea, places like that, fax machines are all the go because it's hard to do things other ways. Not doing a lot of business with North Korea then, Jen?
No, I had to stop recently. We had a difference of opinion because they're very pro-vaccines, and I just can't get on board with that kind of radical thinking.
If any law firm in New Zealand was doing business with North Korea, it's probably Russell McVeigh.
I should point out, actually, we are the first law firm in New Zealand to have a vaccine mandate. So we only let people into our building now who are double vaxxed.
Wow.
Yeah.
How very totalitarian of you. I thought you said you had differences with North Korea.
More like Russell McVeigh.
Why did no one use that as a title? That's such a good article title.
Did you guys know that there is a very, very popular album, which is third wave ska bands who have covered metal songs, and the band MU330 they covered a Metallica song, but the whole album is called Metallica.
That's pretty cool.
Miley Cyrus is apparently going to be making a Metallica covers album, which sounds actually kind of cool. Metallica also did a collaboration with the Symphony Orchestra, the New York Symphony Orchestra. Yeah,
I think it's San Francisco Symphony Orchestra.
Because I grew up with like Bogans, there were these like 3 people in my year group who like Metallica was their entire identity, and so I'm sitting with them. And like this guy was a good friend of mine. We're actually in a band together. We played a Metallica song, but we'd sit in the bus, and he'd be like telling me these stories of Metallica, and I'm like, yeah, cool. I don't know, but he's like telling me about S&M, and this guy, they interview him, and they're like, you
should say that's the name of the album. Otherwise, you just brought up S&M randomly.
I don't see why I need to clarify. Yeah, S&M is the name of the album. And so they interviewed this guy, and he's like, yeah, I love Metallica, and so I thought that'd be pretty cool, and I love the Symphony Orchestra, so this is just going to be off. And I was like, what an amazing catch, this one guy who loves both Metallica and the Symphony Orchestra.
S&M 2, which was in the 2010s. The first one was in 1999, so last millennium. The reason that they have something in common with The Boy Who Cried Wolf is because the second half of S&M 2 opened with the Scythian Suite, The Enemy God and Dance of the Dark Spirits, which is composed by Sergei Prokofiev, who also composed the famous Peter and the Wolf. Yeah, exactly.
That sounds amazing.
Use Peter and the Wolf in the Symphony Orchestra show.
My name is Sam, and my wife's name is Meg. So we're S&M, which is
S&M.
And so, well, we kind of do. I have a Bachelor of Dental Surgery and a Master of Arts in Script Writing. So my letters after my name are BDSMA. It's pretty good.
That is an incredibly metal sounding song, Jen. What was it again? The Story of the Dark Spirits or whatever?
Oh, it's the opening to the Scythian Suite. It's The Enemy God and the Dance of the Dark Spirits.
Like that is such a metal song, eh?
Yeah.
Like, here we are, we're Metallica, this is Dance of the Dark Spirits.
You can just imagine as well going to a Prokofiev concert and being like, what did you listen to? Enemy God and the Dance of the Dark Spirits are followed by Peter and the Wolf.
Did you know that Metallica was formed, came together because Lars Ulrich put an ad in the classified ads that James Hetfield replied to, which shows you how old they are. That piqued my interest, like which other bands have done it. And there have actually been so many, like Duran Duran, Kiss. There have even been modern ones like the Killers from that, the Pixies back in the day. Just so many bands. That used to be how bands formed.
Is that possibly just a cover story? Because there's all these people that, you know, hooked up in town once and then made a relationship. Where did you meet? Oh, the museum.
Are you saying that James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich hooked up one night?
Yeah, they went to the Big Kumara and things got loose.
Also, Kenny, I noticed that you said we met at the museum, but that's exactly how you met your wife.
But speaking of ads, that's actually how they got their bass player, Dave Mustaine, who they put an ad out, and he turned up, and he's like, "Am I going to audition?" And they just looked at like his equipment, and he had like really expensive equipment, and they're like, "No, you're in."
You're in, buddy.
So that's how we joined the band. And then he got kicked out 3 years later for being a total dickhead. He put a beer down their equipment, and like his dog scratched stuff up and like would wreck stuff. And so one day they just were like, nah, they drove him to the bus stop, said you're out of the band, kicked him out, and basically said go home and we'll figure it out ourselves. And so he was, even though he was one of the founding members, he was never actually in any of their albums. Yeah, and then he went off and on that bus ride home wrote songs for what would later become the first album of Megadeth.
So funny that Megadeth is a spin-off of Metallica.
Yeah.
Megadeth to Metallica is Frasier to Cheers.
What's really funny about that as well is that so Dave Mustaine went off and made it with formed Megadeth with a guy called Dave Ellisford, and he was the bass player. And so when Metallica's bass player died in the really horrible bus accident, they put out auditions to get a new bass player, and Dave Ellisford auditioned while he was part of Megadeth and got rejected.
So Megadeth really is like Metallica's B-side.
Yeah.
Team.
It's the offcuts of Metallica.
The Offcuts is a good name for a ska band. Thank you. I'm going to write that down.
We're talking about metal today, guys. Get with it.
I always had this idea that metal was like really. I think I had it confused with the like excesses of normal rock stars in the kind of 80s and 90s. But the more I read about Metallica, the more I'm like, actually, they're kind of adorable. James Hetfield first learnt to play the piano. He wasn't allowed to learn how to play the guitar. So he was a tiny little 9-year-old pianist, which I just think is a bit adorable. Lars Ulrich collects art and sold a painting about 10 years ago for $13 million.
Yeah,
so it's got an eye for it. And James Hetfield collects cars and has one that's called the Beast that can withstand earthquakes and nuclear explosions.
You need one. You just need those.
Presumably this car is roadworthy. It'll have a license plate, which means that he can tell you what the number of the Beast is. But it'll be like ABC 456.
That's really good.
The first pictures of them are adorable too, because they've like massive amounts of hair. So it's amazing. They've all got perms.
Did you know that even Kirk Hammett, who's the lead guitarist, he's on Rogaine, despite having beautiful, lush hair.
Maybe that's why.
Have you guys ever seen Tangled, the Disney film? Sorry, you were hassling me about Disney before.
Sorry, you mean My Life Story? Yes.
There is a wonderful music video in that film where I've Got a Dream, where all these mean and angry people have lovely, lovely hobbies, just like
you're
Metallica.
So right.
And it's all about lovely, luscious locks.
And
so maybe that's Rapunzel is actually the story of Metallica.
I love this theory. Yep, that works for me.
Did you guys know that Lars Ulrich, he was born in Denmark and then moved over to the US when he was, I think, about 8 or 12, some number. He was all lined up to be a professional tennis player. His dad was a professional tennis player. His granddad was a professional tennis player. He eventually gave up tennis to play drums. He's there now because of all of that and some other great philanthropic work and being a nice human. He is now a knight. He's been knighted in Denmark and back in his home country, which is really cool.
Wait, in Denmark, don't they get old school knighting ceremonies? So they get swords and shit.
Yeah, and it's real hard to drum with a sword because you cut through all the drums.
But how do you reconcile that with the whole being a dick about Napster thing?
In fairness, Napster had a stupid logo, so I'm kind of on their side.
They were one of the big bands then, and one of the biggest bands in the world. And someone needed to, it was kind of a new thing of all this file sharing going on and everyone missing out on money. And then they were the ones that were kind of rich enough to then go, oh yeah, hey, let's make a stand about this. Be a dick about this.
It was also because, like, I think one of their songs was supposed to be part of the Mission Impossible soundtrack, and it got released before. And so, like, he heard it on the radio before he'd actually officially ever really released it. And so, yeah, he got pretty pissed off, I think.
Maybe he just went on there and he downloaded, this is really a song.exe, and locked up his
And then
computer.
got loads of viruses.
That's it. All right.
Yeah. I hate you now.
I reckon Dave Mustaine definitely, out of spite, downloaded all of Metallica's albums just to be a dick.
Just to pour beer on them.
Yeah.
I used to often, even for my favorite bands, I would download their music to listen to it early, and then I'd buy the album later.
Especially in New Zealand, we used to not get albums for like 6 months after they came out,
Yeah.
which was always nuts because like it doesn't take 6 months to get from America to New Zealand.
Yeah.
We had planes then. It was fine. They could have just flown them over.
Well, I love that because there's this whole thing about like bandwidth, and they talk about like the ultimate bandwidth, and someone was saying that we are still not at the point where the speed of the internet beats a single van full of USBs.
Oh yeah, in
Like,
Silicon Valley they have something called SneakerNet, which is just interns running things across in backpacks, which is quicker than high-speed internet in a lot of places.
Yeah, like you just
Wow.
put it onto your USB and run it across town as opposed to downloading it.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, we do that in TV as well. We save everything onto drives and then you drive them across town.
That's why they're called
Gotta call it-
drives, Sam.
I'd like to segue slightly and talk about what is Metallica and Victoria's Secret. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to what this might be?
It's got to be that they're secret lingerie models, right?
I assume it has something to do with underwire in bras.
Oh, metal. Very good.
Oh, okay. I was going to go for a Victoria Corin Mitchell link just because I'm madly in love with her, and Metallica have secretly ghost-written the last 2 seasons of Only Connect.
No, so what I was
Obviously.
actually driving at is Victoria's Secret went and released a lipstick that was called Metallica. And Metallica, keeping up a theme that we're dicks about it, and decided that this was not going to stand, and took Victoria's Secret to court, and they settled out of court. So we'll never know what Metallica and Victoria's Secret.
I love that from every show from then on out, everyone in the band just had beautiful lipstick on.
Yeah.
Every photo.
They
Very
finally
clear.
released an album cover and it's lipstick coming out of the toilet.
Also, go them, because Victoria's Secret are kind of dicks. So, yeah,
Mm.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. But they must have, like, someone would have gone, like, Metallica. Like, at this point, it's not like Metallica's like some unknown band. They're not like, what if Metallica, known litigants, are going to have an issue with us naming a lipstick Metallica?
Although I
Did you
think
go-
actually thinking about it, the other reason that I think I thought metal bands were like naughty law-breaking people is because, at stationery shops, they have the tester pens and they're broken up by like permanent markers or whiteboard pens or whatever. And there's always the section of the like cool gel pens. And there would be a section called metallics, and someone would always have changed the final S to an A and then drawn the Metallica logo. So I was like, oh, all
You gotta do
Metallica
it.
fans are all clearly graffiti artists and
Love that.
miscreants.
Where did you go to school? Like, Ethan?
Quite a sheltered life. No, this was
This is prime
the
90s.
Whitcoulls on Cuba Street. Like, this is, next to Cosmic Corner. It was pretty rough area.
Where all those vases were to buy.
Did you guys know that Metallica have written a movie and starred in it?
Is this the terrifying IMAX one?
Yes. I've never seen it, but I read the plot summary of it, and it's bonkers. There's a lot of people hanging from things in it, and it's set during a show. It's one of their roadies. Some
Also,
sort of
kind of The Purge and/or 28 Days Later.
yeah. But they won awards for it and stuff. It's apparently really good. It's rated quite highly
It won an award for Best IMAX Live Concert / Movie
by Metallica.
by Metallica. Really easy with that award.
When you say rated quite highly, do you mean in Rotten Tomatoes, or do you mean like it's an R18? Because
Oh,
it's
no,
not really
I'm-
something that you want a PG rating
Yeah.
on.
I said this is like a R32, which I think is crazy. You've got to be 32 years old to watch it.
It sounds absolutely bananas, and I'm actually quite keen to see it now because it just.
Yeah. We should all watch it together. This is like a
Yeah.
screen.
I could
What-
download it.
On
You
that,
download it. Kenny, you download it on Napster. Tom, you build an IMAX theater and And
I'll make
once I'm
popcorn.
allowed, yeah, you make popcorn, and once I'm allowed out of Auckland, I'll come and find you.
No, we'll just make it such a big IMAX theatre that you can see it from Auckland.
Also legally blind, so make it really big.
Really
Definitely
big.
really big.
Well, I think it's about time that we recap our facts and pick our favorite ones. Let's quickly go back through them. My fact was that Metallica's first album was almost called Metal Up Yo Ass.
Metallica took Victoria's Secret to court and settled out of court to stop them marketing a lipstick called Metallica.
Metallica opened their S&M 2 concert with a rendition of a song by the composer who also wrote Peter and the Wolf.
And my fact was that Metallica has rejected 2 separate members of Megadeth on 2 separate occasions.
All right, let's vote on the count of 3. Point to the person you think had the best fact of the day. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I did the countdown wrong, didn't I?
I think that's win
It's
for
me,
Tom.
right?
Win for Sam.
That's right, I got 2 votes. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Thanks, guys.
And
Just
Sam
like
wins
to-
our honorary first metal butt plug. He
Thank you
gets
so
metal up
much.
his ass.
I will claim my 4x4x4 Rubik's Cube that I promised myself at the beginning.
Not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit, Sam.
Guys, thank you very much for listening and watching. Of course, we're on Spotify now, so make sure you log on to that and follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to this. Put your favorite Metallica fact down in the down below this. There are so many facts that we didn't manage to cover about this wonderful, wonderful band. And make sure that you tune in next week because we are talking about probably the most exciting subject we've ever talked about. Have we decided what it is yet? No. But it's going to be good. We promise. Thank you, friends. Thank you, fabulous fact friends. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Eternal.
Guys, what are we going to talk about next week?